Buying a new house and with security? No, absolutely not. Security, fine. A new house, no. They're profiting off of this and they're using it for personal enrichment. They could have used that money. They could have put that up as collateral for bond and said the funds are available. They said they couldn't. You could put up a collateral. You can say the money is made available. We will, we could relinquish control of that for bond to a certain degree or whatever. There's a lot of things they could do, or at least argue to do. And they could be arguing for the release of footage, which would prove innocence. They're not doing that either.
Well, as if Karmelo Anthony was not guilty enough already, this doesn't help his case in the court of public opinion or how you perceive stuff. Bro's family said they didn't have enough money for bond, that they had to lower the bond, but yet they had over $440,000 of a GoFundMe campaign that they used to buy the kid a new car to buy a house in a gated community. Here's a clip of Tim Pool going off on this. I'm going to give you my thoughts at the end of the video, but let's get to it.
But in terms of the politics of this nation, this story, let me tell you, nothing screams self-defense and innocent like buying a new house with funds that were donated for a legal defense. This is what Black Lives Matter activism is and always has been. And I don't think it bodes well for Karmelo Anthony. But I will give you an update as I had the discussion with Jack Posobiec the other day. And my view now, after the conversation with Jack, is that I was incorrect. And I believe that the Texas law, as it pertains to this incident, is first-degree murder. And the reason why that is that Texas actually doesn't have any other degrees of murder, is my understanding, which I could be wrong about again. But we went through this and ultimately discovered upon looking at the law, Texas defines acting recklessly in a way that can cause death, which results in death, as first-degree felony murder, which means they have a broad threshold for what this is, which is why he was charged with first-degree murder, and which makes it as such. The left doesn't care. Democrats don't care. This whole issue is going to fall down on racial lines. And, people ask me if there's going to be justice in this. My friends, I know you're going to get mad, but I'm going to tell you there's not. I don't see how there's going to be justice in this case. BLM will show up and they will riot. And the jurors are going to fear for their lives. I mean, maybe Donald Trump can send in the National Guard to quell this and make sure there's a fair jury trial, in which case, based on all of the information presented and current political circumstances, it stands to reason that this is going to fall. This will be a conviction. So let's break this down. When in court, they told the court they couldn't use the $430,000 for bail because they needed it for a legal defense, and that they wanted to move to a bigger house with security because of the threats against Karmelo Anthony. The story for those that are not familiar, I'll keep it light. I'm not going to go through the police report over and over again. This was a high school track meet at a stadium. There were at least 6 high schools there. Karmelo Anthony was under a tent for which he was not a member of. He was not did not go to that high school. It was Austin Metcalf who approached him and said, you can't be here. Altercation is ensued. Karmelo Anthony drew a knife, stabbed Austin Metcalf once in the chest, killing him. And this is where we're currently at. Now, the merits of the case, I'm seeing a lot of people, and again, people get so mad about this one. Whatever, man. I'm not going to lie. The issue in the case is whether or not the escalation of the use of force was justifiable self-defense. And based on the reading of Texas law, there is a very thin argument for that based on the police report. And that is, nothing in the police report suggests that Austin Metcalf did anything that rose to a threat of deadly force. So an escalation would fall under the first-degree felony rule. But more importantly than that, and I'll give you my argument why I think this will ultimately end up as first-degree murder, is that, one, as I stated, Texas doesn't have the multiple degrees. If you intentionally kill someone or accidentally kill someone, it's murder. Their manslaughter largely pertains to, like, you're driving a car and you don't do anything that normally would result in death, and someone dies from those actions. First-degree murder would be like, yeah, even if you are defending yourself. No, like, this is important. This is important. I know everyone's going to get mad. Calm down, guys. I'm teasing you. In the event Karmelo Anthony actually says he was defending himself, it doesn't matter. Because if you are defending yourself from a threat of force, grabbed, pushed, or otherwise, it becomes first-degree murder when you escalate disproportionately. These are important things to understand and how this case will play forward. But this is the conversation I was having with Jack, with news that there is video footage and apparently a lot of footage. This was reported. There's a couple of arguments. If the footage exonerated Karmelo Anthony, or at least made him look good in any way, why isn't it being released? Perhaps you'd argue the family doesn't have access to it. Okay. Why isn't the family advocating for the release of the footage to the public to prove his innocence? Interesting. And then you have the police likely reviewed all video footage of the incident when they made their arrest, or the detectives did. Now, the initial police reports don't mention this, but I'm sure the detectives actually just looked at the video footage and said, this guy did it. Now, we don't know exactly all the details, but we do know there is video footage. And there is a lot of speculation in this regard as to what this means. And so I'll just say it. You know, for all of you guys that are, it's a very heated issue. The current political climate and law suggests this is first-degree murder. That's it. And I will stress this too. Again, I know a lot of people are getting angry about this, but understand the purpose of understanding this argument is to arm yourself with information to counter the left. There is an argument of self-defense, which is disqualified because of the escalation of force. You are allowed to defend yourself in Texas. You could actually be in the process of defending yourself, which is justified in the court's mind, and then it becomes murder because you use a disproportionate amount of force. So I don't think that they're going to have a strong argument. However,
yeah, I couldn't believe that they lowered the bail. As I'll tell you at the end of the video, this is a pretty standard thing in the state of Texas. It's $1 million if you're charged with murder. He had admitted that he stabbed Austin Metcalf in the heart with a knife because Austin Metcalf laid hands on him. He was not claiming that Austin Metcalf had a weapon or threatened him or etc., anything of the sorts. Yet this kid's been released on a $250,000 bond, and he gets to remain on house arrest. My gripe with this, with the people on the left, is, one, this shouldn't happen. It never happens. And how many of the January 6ers, because the left likes to go on about January 6th, how many of those people were held without bond? They didn't even murder anybody. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's get back to it.
That being said, guys, I'm going to say it, and I'm going to scream to the high heavens. This looks unscrupulous. Using the money raised to buy yourself a new house. They got their bond. Listen. This is the problem. Their bond was lowered under the argument that we can't afford $250,000 bond, of which you probably only put up 10%. The judge actually asked, why can't you use the $400,000 you got from Give, Said, to Go? Fighting a sneeze. And they said, we don't have access to it. Then they announced, actually, we're going to buy a new house. We're going to buy a new house. I'm sorry, that looks unscrupulous. There are moves that you got to make when you're navigating PR, and they are not acting like victims in this regard. They are not acting like this kid was being bullied. They're acting like they're going to get away with it, and they're going to get money from it. Now, my position largely, which I, again, don't respect people taking out of context, was the family will make a self-defense argument, to which I said this looks like manslaughter or second-degree murder. However, that law is largely based on Illinois or New York law, which has premeditation as a pretext for first-degree murder. So that was incorrect. I was wrong about that. It looks like, again, when you pull up the law, reckless actions which result in death is first-degree murder. And I will say it again. I know I'm repeating myself, but this is important because this case is going to get nuts. I genuinely believe that if the video footage was exculpatory, the family would be doing a press conference right now saying, please release the footage. That'll prove it. But they're not. Now, there are some rumors that footage exists that's been going around. And there's rumors as what is on tape. I don't think it proves anything. I'm not going to report anything because, rumors are rumors. But I do want to stress that, a lot of people are saying he was trespassing. He wasn't, and this is important. There were 6 high schools that were there, not 2. At least 6, maybe more. The police report says that he was friends with one of the people at Memorial High School, which probably explains why he was there. But we don't know. We don't. All we know is that this looks like BLM all over again, taking the money and buying houses. The family of the teen accused in the stabbing incident, stabbing of a student athlete at a track meet, plans to shell out on a new home and security to protect the alleged murderer after he was released from jail. Karmelo Anthony walked out of jail silently, surrounded by his family on Monday, who posted his $250,000 bond after a judge agreed to lower it to $1 million. So here's the big issue. I would argue that I don't believe I'm wrong on the facts. I believe that I have interpreted the police report correctly as I have, but I was wrong on the degrees of law. Now, the left is arguing this was self-defense, and they've argued wrongfully that Anthony was a bully. The reason that's wrong is because both families, I believe, have acknowledged now that neither of these individuals knew each other, in which case you simply have a story of a dude was under a tent in a public place. He wasn't trespassing. He was asked to leave, and this led to an altercation. He was shoved. Texas law and precedent, as I've gone through, doesn't allow you to use lethal force in that circumstance. There are some arguments to be made as to where he could have asserted self-defense, but it seems like he will lose on those grounds. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that people are saying there's no argument of self-defense. Of course there is. It's just slim and unlikely to be to succeed. But I'll say this. I don't think anyone's getting a fair trial here. And what I mean is, with Derek Chauvin and the far left showing up and threatening the jury indirectly, what do you think is going to happen? All that matters is this. These people have done nothing to endear themselves to the public at large. And I'm the person who's actually getting a lot of flack from the conservatives. So let me say this to all the pro Karmelo Anthony people. Over the past week, I maintained my position, but I also admit I was incorrect on Texas law. I was wrong about that. And upon a conversation with Jack Posobiec, we looked it up, and I admitted I was incorrect. There is no lesser degrees of murder on this. The reckless act is itself first-degree murder. It's kind of surprising to me. I figured Texas would be more broad on stand your ground. Stand your ground states that Karmelo didn't have to leave. He was in a public place. He was not trespassing. He was friends with one of the Memorial High School members. However, he escalated the situation. And that's where he's going to lose his self-defense claim. To the left, it's arguing everyone on the right is just being racist or whatever. Well, that argument don't work on me, because I'm just going by the merits of the case and how y'all are responding to this. Buying a new house and with security? No, absolutely not. Security, fine. A new house? No. They're profiting off of this, and they're using it for personal enrichment. They could have used that money. They could have put that up as collateral for bond and said the funds are available. They said they couldn't. You could put up a collateral. You can say the money is made available. We will, we could relinquish control of that for bond to a certain degree or whatever. There's a lot of things they could do, or at least argue to do. And they could be arguing for the release of footage, which would prove innocence. They're not doing that either. I think the public actions here show that this likely was an unreasonable escalation of force. And though stand your ground does play, he was not charged on the felony murder rule, meaning it was not illegal to have the knife. At least that's what it appears. A lot of people are arguing that he couldn't have the knife. That's why it's murder. No, it's murder because in Texas, it's first degree murder if you act recklessly in a way that can result in death and someone dies. That was surprising to me upon fact checking. And, I could be wrong, but I will say we're going to debate this on Friday with a handful of people. So we'll go over it. In the meantime, let me just add to this. The dude is doing nothing to endear himself to even skeptics. To even, I was saying, let's wait and see for all the facts we don't know. Then I see people buying a house with the money, and I'm like, okay, these people, again, have no scruples and care not for what's going on.
In my opinion, obviously, it's going to be a jury of his peers, and with the media and this going viral, the race of the jury might help him here. But I think he's going to go to jail. This is my opinion. I think he's going to go to jail, and I think he's going to go to jail for a very long time. I have faith in this process for this one. The kid's in a lot of trouble. No matter what happens here, they can buy a house, they can buy a car, but this kid's in a lot of trouble right now. And he is most likely going to be in prison for a very long time, and maybe for the rest of his life, because you cannot respond to undeadly force with deadly force, period. And it doesn't matter the color of your skin, right? You don't get to get off because you're a white guy or a black guy, which he might get off because of the color of his skin, but it shouldn't matter. Assuming we're following the proper laws here. Now, it's already started. Don't get me wrong. The judge is bending over backwards because of the color of his skin. This is why he's out on bail right now. But I read articles from a defense law firm in Texas who deals with this stuff all the time. Their name was Granger Muller. Criminal defense law firm in Texas said that those accused of murder in Texas have a bail set at the amount of $1 million, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. The fact that they lowered this for him because apparently they didn't have enough money to pay for it is ridiculous. He's 17 years old. That may have had some effect on it. I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt, this judge. He's under his parents' control. But the parents don't seem to be making good decisions with this money here. The kid could be facing life in prison. So in my opinion, this kid is a flight risk, or at least a risk of some sort. In this case, that Austin kid went to the tent, said leave. This Karmelo kid said, make me. Austin Metcalf apparently put his hands on him, grabbed him. This kid pulled a knife and stabbed him in the heart. You cannot be the person who provoked the attack on you in which your response was use a knife to stab him in the heart. And so he can't claim self-defense for that reason, even though they'll try. But more importantly here, right? The response to force being used against you in all 50 states in the Union must be proportional to the threat. And you may not use a knife, a gun, or any other sorts of weapon that could obviously cause death or risk serious bodily harm. I don't think this kid is going to get off. I really don't. And I think the law is going to prevail here. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.